G'day, my name's James, and welcome to another episode of the Oz F1 show. In this episode, we're going to review the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. And I'm joined by my friends and yours, a freight train and a good bloke who can make coffee. Campy, the little train that could. Hello.
How are you, boys? Are you well?
Tommy T.
Good morning.
It is a good morning. We come to you from at 5:30 in the morning here in the beautiful Mornington Peninsula as we stay up really late to watch Formula One live again, and of course there was a red flag in the race, but if you didn't catch our pre-drinks episode, feel free to jump back to that first, have a listen, and then prove us wrong in terms of what we thought would happen. Boys, overall thoughts of the race. Campy, would you like to take us away?
Yeah, it's really a two-horse race, this championship for this year, isn't it? Between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. I think both of them were outstanding in the race. Pace-wise, they controlled the wet conditions, clearly faster than everybody else, substantially faster than everyone else. A bit of a tale of two races, really. It was wet, and it was red flag, and then it was dry. But yeah, exciting. It's good to see. It's something different, and I'd like to see Lewis Hamilton not winning, which is good. So it's just good for the sport. If he wins and he deserves it, good. I'm just sick of seeing it because he's done it for 8 years straight.
He leads the championship by one single point because of his fastest lap. Yeah. That is something I'm here for with two races in and he's not miles ahead.
Yeah. Yep.
Tommy T?
Yes, disappointing that the other two of those constructor cars were nowhere near. Bottas for other reasons, and Perez had no luck at all. But those two cars are clearly the fastest, and everyone's kind of the rest. But the rest is actually really competitive and close. Like Ferrari came out of nowhere. McLaren had real pace, which they probably shouldn't have at a track like this. I'm here for that, to have the midfield to be bigger than usual and really compressed and really tight.
Yeah, I think looking at last year in Imola and, with 6 overtakes, I think Yuki Tsunoda did that up and down the grid about 17 times, 6 overtakes going and then crash spinning out and then going forward 6 places and then coming back again. So it was totally different to what I think we expected.
Yes.
Certainly different to what we thought in the pre-drinks podcast and talking about what our expectations were for the race, but good. No surprises that there was a lot of spinning going on in the wet weather.
Yes.
A couple of disappointments. What we'll do is we'll go through team by team as we normally do. But before we get into the race itself, there's only one bit of fresh news that we've got. And Tommy T, you actually picked this up ahead of before it was actually announced. You said that the Instagram logo with Formula One, you had another moment of actually being clever.
Am I the prophet? Have you lost it?
I have lost it, really.
But Miami has now been confirmed.
Yes.
We're going to a car park, which is a terrible idea. Campy, obviously you love the United States for some reason. And is this a good thing that there's another race and we're not going to somewhere like Laguna Seca, which is an amazing track? We're going to a car park instead?
It'll be a spectacle. Do I think we should go there? Probably not. There's better tracks around the world, and we saw them last year and this year.
Good
tracks
point.
that have been added to the calendar that deserve a spot on the schedule. So I'd really like to see Vietnam.
Yeah.
Because that track on all the sims and the games looked spectacular, but whatever's happened there, that's gone cold. I mean, they spent millions of dollars, tens of millions getting that track up to scratch, and we haven't even been there yet. To announce somewhere like Miami, it's good for American market. They get a couple of races,
which makes
probably
sense.
Be back to back. Liberty Media is an American-owned media conglomerate. Therefore, they'll be trying to promote the sport in America because it's probably their biggest growth market.
Yes, indeed.
Outside of China, but they've seemed to not favour China for the last couple of years, by that race anyway. So, yeah, good on them.
It's another.
But there's other places we could go in America that would be way better.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think, they've been trying Miami for a long time, haven't they? The conversations have been almost around the same amount of time as sprint races have been talked about on a Saturday.
And New York as well. Like, we actually came bloody close to having a race in New York.
Can you imagine New York, though? The logistics of trying to get New York to happen would be nigh on impossible. They can barely get a marathon sorted.
Yeah, that's true.
Good luck, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'd prefer to go to New York than I would Miami.
I would too, but
100%.
I'd like to have Formula on the moon. Like, that's more likely, mate. Genuinely, New York, the logistics to shut that city down would be off its head. Because it's not like a marathon where it's just people running around. The bollards, the everything, the runoffs, like that city would have to shut down for a month.
They'd get it done, though.
They fucking would not.
You know what I reckon?
You're off your dial.
He only knows this from watching basketball.
Yes, exactly.
and being in New York and taking photos of
there is no
basketballs.
chance. Oh, listen, I'd love to see it, but like that'd be like having a Formula One race in the middle of London. Good luck.
When we're the rights holder,
yes, we'll do that.
I'm not
Can
sure
be,
we'll do
dude,
it.
I'll make it happen.
Not sure. Okay.
We'll get Big Daddy Stroll's money. He's probably the only one with enough money to make it happen.
Sorry, can you please call him Chairman Santa
Sorry.
Claus? Because he looked like Santa Claus in that green outfit yesterday, and he's got a big white beard, and he is also Chairman. So Chairman Santa Claus, King of the Santa Clauses.
Man.
That's probably his other business. Is he owns all of the other Santa Clauses that goes to different supermarkets and stuff. It'd be a big market.
From the
Anyway,
north.
it's a tangent. On another tangent, I'd like to point out that Campy and I are both wearing RM Williams stuff today. So if you're interested in sponsoring us, RM Williams, just feel free to DM us. Tommy's
As
wearing
James pointed out, he's
Nike.
a private schoolboy preppy version of RM Williams from
Campy
Sydney.
was shocked when I walked in with an RM vest, and I was like, mate.
Was apparently on the cashed up bogan. So,
Apparently.
Nobody was surprised.
well, if money is the defining factor here, I'm beating you both. So, come on.
Yep. And that's, you're not wrong. Anyway, so Miami, look, it's going
I
to be
think
a
it makes
rubbish
sense
ride.
because Florida is such a motorsport kind of
Yeah, it is,
area
yeah.
of
Oh,
America.
for 100%.
Yeah.
So they're looking into like what is already a market there. Can we kind of tap into that? So logical
Be
decision.
huge. Be huge.
Look, more racing is not a bad thing in Formula One.
Yes.
We said this, and after last year, we said there's going to be no such thing as a boring race. That went out the window pretty quickly with our attitudes to certain things. But anyway,
How long a contract was it?
10.
10-year contract.
Yeah.
You see, what if it's a dud racetrack?
Well, then we've got.
you mean like most racetracks?
Well, like Russia.
Well, at least
I
we're in
think
Miami
Russia
and
is-
not in friggin' France.
Sochi as a city is a cool city.
Yeah.
And it has the
You would say
potential
that.
to
You
be
would
a
say that,
great
comrade.
racetrack. But
Go on the roller
like,
coaster.
as a track, it's shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like the worst design track of all time.
Yeah. It's the only track I'm any good at in F1 2020.
I was going to say, I
and
kind of like it.
And that points out how rubbish it is.
Well, the racing we get, the cars need to be 6 or 7 seconds
It can't be
faster
worse
a
than
lap
Yas
for
Marina.
that track to be better. But the FIA won't allow these cars to get quicker. So, anyway.
Yeah.
Rant over.
When did having a good track mean anything to the Formula One runners? Like, they
Yeah,
don't get
really.
it.
Cash. Cash is king.
Let's talk about the
The
teams.
Italians.
Williams, as we said yesterday, looked strong.
I said they'd be on for a point.
They did not look strong as Latifi was clipped by Mazepin, who I can only assume it was Mazepin's fault, even if you didn't see him.
Definitely not Mazepin's
Definitely
fault.
wasn't, but it's
Everyone was
disappointing.
shocked.
But it's like, I wonder who was involved in that.
So Latifi had a spin
accident.
and then re-entered the track on top of Mazepin. So he could have braked. He was just like, well,
I don't think Latifi saw him there,
No.
and Mazepin was surprised that he moved over.
The amazing thing was, it was 3 laps into the race. Latifi had time to spin, correct it, get back on the track, and then Mazepin caught up with him. That's
a great point. That is a
I
very
hadn't
great
thought of
point.
that. That's actually a very good point. I love that.
Excellent.
But to be fair, Williams looked strong this weekend.
Qualified strong.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
Like,
think
the
they're
starts were
moving
good.
forward. I mean, is that saying much when there's a Haas car that's not getting developed and has 2 very, very rookie drivers and one of them is a Muppet?
No, but I think we look at Alfa Romeo as the comparison for
Yep.
Williams. Alfa have made some gains in that new Ferrari PU, and they've got, I think, a great driver pairing. I don't think Latifi is as strong as Giovinazzi, but I would say that George has got glimpses of what Kimi is well known for in terms of consistency and ability. I mean, I think Kimi's the best out of the four.
He's consistent at not getting a point, tell you that much. There
it is. I'm just going to use that.
Let's talk about his crash.
Yeah. Go on then.
What do you reckon?
Of George Russell.
Yeah.
Okay, so there lots of people saying that it's George Russell's fault, and I am one of those people.
Good.
What a setup.
Because not only because Valtteri Bottas is the Russell Crowe of the paddock, he's Australian,
We
adopted.
love him.
But there was, if you listen to the post-race conference, Natalie interviewed both drivers, and both drivers blamed the other. But I think George was very emotional with his, maybe this is just because VB is from Finland, but very emotional with the whole attitude about it. But VB was like, we were going pretty quick. It was a big shunt. Yes, I was like winded. The dude was like, pretty like, huh. But there's one dry bit of the track. There's one, the racing line is the only dry bit. Yeah. So that's where I was going. And he had the racing line. If you look on the onboard, he's well ahead. George just stood, and like if it was dry, as George said, he would have made it stick. It would have been an amazing overtake. Totally. But it's just because, as you said on our Discord chat, Campy, he lost traction. Both rear wheels started spinning at a very high speed, and the rev uptake was like, oh my gosh, it's terrifying to hear how quickly it up-revved.
I don't care if Bottas even moved across slightly. There was a good 3 feet between those two.
Yes.
All the camera angles showed it. Even the one from Raikkonen's car behind it. That was 3,000% George Russell's fault. So accidents happen, I can handle that.
Sure. Yeah.
The way he got out of the car and then go to give him a lid, I would have got out and smacked that little shit across the chin for disrespecting me.
He struck in. He probably wanted to. He's sitting there getting tapped on the helmet.
I can understand the emotion and he's frustrated about it.
Yep.
But he came across like a little 2-year-old last night.
Yeah.
Oh, he's doing this, he did this, it's a gentleman's agreement. It's like, get fucked, mate. You stuffed up. You can't even admit that you had enough room. There was one dry line, and when you stepped off it onto the left, whether you put your rear wheel on the grass or your front wheel, it was all over from day one. An experienced driver would never even try to make that move in those conditions. Yes, he had a good run.
Yep.
But you still got to get it done.
Yep.
I think devil's advocate, George is saying from his mind and what he saw and felt was that Bottas started moving across.
Well, his truth is wrong.
Correct.
His truth is
I'm with
bollocks.
you. Just settle. What he perceived was Bottas making a dive across as he was alongside, so shat his pants and then ended up on the grass. He flinched.
Yeah, there was still 3 foot.
But that's not the point. Like if you're going that fast,
up the gap between those two.
Pretty sure that's not 3 foot. But if you would flinch as well,
it's a strange angle,
he would know it's a freight train.
You would potentially flinch as well, and I think that's what he needs to admit is, listen, he scared the shit out of me. We're going that fast. Yeah. There's one dry line, and I didn't want to get hit on the side because he didn't see me, and then
the thing is, what George didn't do was trust VB.
Yes.
VB knew he was there.
Yep.
And we know, and we've said this plenty of times, like if it was Mazepin or if it was someone else or Stroll who has a history of this.
It's different.
You go, oh, okay, I'm going to give him a bit of space. But VB is a gentleman to a point in previous years that has been to his detriment.
Enough.
Yeah, and so
he didn't flinch either. He was just following the dry line, racing line.
No, 100%. As in VB, but that's what I'm saying. He came across to the right because that's where the racing line goes. You go wide to then turn left in the next corner. Yeah. But when he saw George come along, you can see him put the car left again, so he goes slightly on the wet.
Yeah.
Which is when George freaks out, and then suddenly VB's there with George's front left tyre stuck in his halo going,
thanks, dude.
Halo again, doing amazing things.
George Russell, you are a talent. You've got many years in this sport.
Yes.
Just start behaving like someone that we want to see on TV.
I tell you what, he doesn't like Imola, does he?
No. But that'll be the debrief, I think, with Toto will be you got to not do that.
Stop being a
pull your head in.
Yeah, because that was also Natalie goes to Valtteri. Did you hear what George Russell said? No, but you responded with a finger. Yep.
Yeah, good.
Correct.
He should have smacked him across the chin.
But he's not that kind of person. VB would have just been like, I can't hear you because I've just had a massive accident. And
What?
do you think I really care about this? Anyway, so that was. But look, Williams though, good because this is the most we've ever spoken about Williams.
They might even have to get moved up from this part of the.
The only reason they're down there is because they had a double DNF.
Correct.
Which
Not a
is,
lot's changed from the previous seasons.
No, I know, poor guys.
Different, but same result.
Well, let's talk about Haas. I actually can't believe that Mazepin finished.
Spun on the last lap.
We got there. We got there. For everyone playing at home.
How was
17th.
Anthony Davidson? He's like, hey, he didn't let me down.
Everyone liked
comment.
that. Yeah, it's good. Mick Schumacher though, poor bloke was his own accident was the reason that he couldn't get back into the pits to put a new front wing on, which I thought was interesting. He's trying to get some.
He did a Grosjean.
Well, he did a George Russell from last year. Remember when Kimi was like, Kimi's engineer was like, "Yep, copy. That was easy."
Ericsson hit me.
yeah, Ericsson clearly hit him.
Definitely.
Coming from IndyCar. But trying to put some heat into the tyres, this Haas is clearly a very rubbish car at the best of times, let alone with a little bit of, grease and wetness out there, as moisture out there as well. Felt bad for the bloke because I quite like Mick Schumacher. I think he's a really lovely guy.
He's likeable.
Really lovely guy.
Well, he's beating Mazepin. He'll only get better. With more time, more laps in that car, by the end of the season, hopefully he's putting whole weekends together the way he should. Steep learning curve for him.
Yes.
He'll get 2 years in there fine.
Yep.
Minimum.
Yep.
And whether he stays with Haas or moves on, but he's got a couple of years to.
Yeah.
Even hearing his radio message, like his attitude is correct. He's on the right. He's polite. He wants to do the best thing for the team. Yep. Unlike his teammate, who's just aggressive and a jerk.
Sounds a little Australian when he talks as well.
Love that. He's got one of those like combo Euro accents.
Combo Euro
accent that just ends up Australian.
It's fantastic.
Somehow.
Yeah. It's just goes to show us sounding weird.
Or South African.
Well, shout out to you if you listen from anywhere else in the world and you like the Australian accent.
South Africa.
Why would you? It's disgusting.
Lots of people do. But also, Schumacher's got K-Mag's old engineer, race engineer. So
my message to the Discord was like, "Can he read me a bedtime story?"
Yeah, really.
It's very calming.
Okay, Mick.
It was the best. He's so lovely. I was like, I'm so relaxed now. I've just crashed, but I'm all good.
That's where audiobook reading is his next career after this. Alfa Romeo. We'll talk about them. Kimi Räikkönen in 13th. Giovinazzi in 14th. Raikkonen was doing it to them. It was hovering around 8th for quite a while.
Yep.
This is Kimi conditions.
Isn't it?
Yep. Hazards, wet. Just do Kimi things.
That sounds like you. Hazard and wet.
Yeah.
Jeez. Interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway,
moving on.
No, Kimi.
He's a star.
Like he was made for this. It's basically just rallying now.
How chilled was he through the accident? Like, you're looking at the onboards. What I was looking at was just his helmet and hands. Nothing changes. Like,
or him in spins.
He's driving through crap, all this stuff, and he's just like...
Or he spins and he just puts it back on track. It's like, sweet.
That's why they call him the Iceman. Cool, calm and collected.
He is. This was his 400th start, wasn't it, as well?
I don't... Probably.
Pretty sure I saw that on social media. 400th start.
Grand Prix weekend.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, right.
That's insane.
Yeah. He's a star. Look, it was unfortunate for them. They just dropped off in the second half of the race after the red flag. So, they just don't have the pace, which is a shame for the top 10.
Yep.
But, yeah, if it had been wet the whole race, which I love seeing a wet race, my one gripe was about the restart. Why didn't we get a standing restart?
Okay.
Safety.
Give me a break, dude.
Who
don't
made that
go
decision?
racing.
Talk about your guy, Michael Massey.
Michael Massey.
I can somewhat understand why he made the decision.
Oh, wow. That was...
Am I defending
this real quick?
Am I defending that decision? Absolutely not. We're fans. We want to see standing starts.
Because we spoke about walking along the grid now. He's starting to think
he's thinking about,
legitimately in November
and
if
he's
we
Australian
get there.
old shit.
Oh, no.
No, I think that's what they've said, but if it's dry enough to race, it's dry enough for a restart.
We didn't see an incident after the restart anyway.
Well, and if anything, to be honest, you look back at safety car restarts last year and Mugello, huge chaos.
We had 3 of them.
So in the dry. So why would you not think back at that? Because I would have enjoyed, I think, a standing restart more.
Yes.
Max almost completely buggered it in the second to last corner.
He
was
spun.
off.
He got it back.
I was like, oh, rally,
my gosh.
I'm good. I'm like, oh, you just got grass on your tyres now and you're still outstanding. What an
I
absolute
know.
legend. What an absolute legend.
What did he, oh, mate, he's unbelievable.
Yeah. So that's good. Giovinazzi was kind of not really...
We didn't get to see it. Like, I want to talk more about him, but we don't get to see anything. So
Yeah, it's kind of not really there.
yeah, it's not really much we can comment on.
My one concern about Giovinazzi is we know how good Kimi Räikkönen is and how consistent he is over the years. He doesn't, like, he has weekends where he beats him, but he's not consistently better than him. Or does he deserve a drive in another spot, in another car? I don't think so. He's ahead of a few other drivers on the grid.
Yep.
Like your Latifis, your Mazepins and your Schumachers. But where does he go from here?
We sort of said this, I think, in the preseason pod, that it's kind of like an Ericsson situation, right? He just will remain in that Sauber
Until
Alfa Romeo fold until he leaves for IndyCar or DTM. Cries in DTM.
Formula E.
Or Formula E.
Go bet Stoffel.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame.
yeah. Let's talk about Alpine. Fernando Alonso finished this weekend, which is good.
Struggled.
Didn't he? He finished in the points,
in quali and in
Yeah.
He finished in 10th
race.
in the points.
Oh, he got some points. Good
And
on him.
Ocon finished in 9th, which is not where I thought either of those guys would finish. I
think
didn't
they
think
just-
there were points this weekend.
kept their nose clean, stayed out of trouble. To be honest,
Alonso looked like he struggled throughout the race. But again, we didn't see, I wasn't following his on-track performance enough. But I would have thought those conditions would have suited him a bit better.
I agree.
Yeah.
But again, maybe we've got to give these new drivers coming in or the drivers that have changed teams a bit more time to adapt to these cars. Because what is clear from the finishing positions and race pace is that the guys that have had time in these teams last year and the same car are miles ahead of everybody else who stepped in.
Yeah.
I think we got 8 people that have either changed or come in from new teams this year. So that's what is clear. Maybe we just need to give them that 5 or 6 races until they're 100% up to scratch with it.
So what you're saying is you should give Seb 6 races before we write him off?
I did say that yesterday, but I think he's cooked.
can't believe you remembered your own take. Yeah. I'm impressed. You usually forget, and we have to remind you that you're wrong.
I hope the fans forget too.
Because in 6 races time.
Look, we should definitely give them that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, limited testing this year. I mean, Danny Rick's probably only done 400 laps in the car at 2 different racetracks, really, and it's unfortunate for him that he hasn't got the experience in that car of 2 solid test weeks in there.
Yeah.
At least 500 to 600 laps, so that they can get the best out of it. But Carlos was struggling too early on.
As you said, I think everyone who's changed teams is struggling. And for someone like Fernando Alonso, the last time he was in a Formula One car was a Honda-powered McLaren.
Yeah.
And it was way down the very back of the grid. So he's used to being back there, pardon me, but obviously a lot has changed. And I think the chassis of that McLaren was still pretty good. The PU was terrible. Now he's moved into Alpine where everything is terrible.
But it's the first time these guys have ever had wet compounds on the car.
Totally.
Yes.
Yeah.
They've driven the car in soaring heat in Bahrain.
Yeah.
And this is the first time they even had that on there. So they don't know anything about the traction controls and the power modes in those.
Yeah.
The engine modes and the power modes that they have to increase torque when it's wet and stuff like that. So it's all new for them and they're learning on the job.
Yeah.
It's tough to adapt to. It's
Carlos
good to watch.
Sainz said it's like
was
I'm
gonna say,
testing
Well, and
while I'm out there.
he had a little interview pre-race, and he was talking about it's so different. It's almost like a different formula or a different category. He feels like. He's like, I can't believe how different these cars can be
and
be so close in like results and times. He's like, it's insanely how differently they drive, because he's been in 4 cars in the last 6 years. I think,
Toro
is it, or
Rosso,
something?
Renault, McLaren, Ferrari.
Yeah. So he would be the one to talk to. He's like, they're all so different. So to assume you can just jump in any car and be as fast as the guy that's been in it for 2 or 3 years.
He and Danny Rick
Crazy.
are the same.
Yep.
They're both
In fact,
feeling
Danny
it, I think.
drove and done the car before the Toro Rosso. So he's got that experience in knowing.
Yep.
And as he said in his interview, it's like, just need more time.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know where the limit is. So something will happen in the car, which might have been the limit in the Renault, for example, and then he has to let that go in a McLaren because it's totally different. Anyway, we'll talk about
to
that.
his credit, he's not playing up and making that the excuse for his performance.
I don't think there's any
get to
excuses
him.
coming from him except for he just needs more time.
We'll get to that later.
Aston Martin. I didn't have to change Seb's finishing position because it was 15th again.
Wow.
Yeah, they retired him at the end of the race.
Yes, but after with
count
2
back
laps
and
to go,
whatever,
because Schumacher and Mazepin were down 2 laps already.
Jeez, I feel sorry for him. He starts in the pit lane because he had some reliability issues with the car's braking.
Yeah.
And then after he comes out, gets in the fight, they give him a 10-second stop.
Literally
go.
felt like as he left. Oh, sorry, lads.
You will be.
Oh, love it. Who's ringing you? Who's ringing you at 5:30
No, it's the
in the
alarm to
morning?
tell us to stop recording, which we already
That's
did.
helpful. Yeah,
so
good.
my bad.
Technology.
No, it literally felt like as he left the pit lane, they're like, "Oh, by the way, can you come back around and jump in because you got a penalty?"
yeah, that was dumb.
It was like, could we have decided that earlier? That was it before the
FIA.
race even started. That incident. So surely that's a
yeah,
pretty.
they had
that's
all the time in the world.
That's a clear cut, like black and white, surely penalty. You don't need any like decision making. It was like you either hit the 5 minutes or not.
Yep.
Yeah, and if you don't hit the 5 minutes, you start from the pit lane.
Yeah,
And
that's a penalty enough, surely.
They were talking about safety in a race from 1970 where someone, I get the standards, but it had no, like, it didn't impact on the race at all.
No.
Seb was never going to be in the points.
Yeah.
Why would you give him that after he's pitted when, Massey, sort your shit out.
He lost
Yeah,
his grid
seriously.
position and started from the pit lane. Surely that is enough punishment for not hitting the criteria. Or if it's known, then he has to stay in the pit lane for 5 seconds and then leave or something like that. Just do it all at once. It should be black and white. There's no grey area here.
Are we going to get consistency throughout the year? though?
No.
As if.
Of course not.
Imagine if that happened to Ferrari this weekend. Charles Leclerc.
No.
Different story.
It would be a completely different story. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Daddy Stroll's son, what's his name? Lance.
that guy.
Leisurely Stroll, 8th, but he finished in the points. And
He should.
As I said to Campy just before we started recording, if it was anyone else than Stroll behind Daniel Ricciardo, I feel like Danny would have dropped another place. It was just lucky that Danny's experience was there to put the car in a good position.
Yeah.
Track positions king.
You're not wrong. And that's why I think, well, we'll talk about McLaren in a sec, but that's why they went with softs. Stroll, though, has a better understanding of this car. We spoke about this yesterday in the pre-drinks in terms of how he understands it. Obviously, lots changed, and we know that Aston Martin are complaining about the rule changes. But there is pace in this car still. And I think if you can use it properly, if a higher quality driver, maybe like Sergio Perez, was driving that car still, you're probably getting better results.
You're crazy. What are you talking about?
Although he didn't really have a great weekend this weekend. Damn it. They're doing so well.
Damn my point. No, I agree. I think that car still has potential. It's not as good as it was comparatively last year, but it's still right in that midfield and probably should have performed better like it did last time at Imola. So
I think what we're saying 2 tiers of teams this year.
Yeah.
You've got Red Bull and Mercedes, clear 1 and 2.
Yeah.
3 and 4 is Ferrari and McLaren. And then there's the rest of the pack. I think Aston are the best of the rest.
yeah.
Followed closely by Alpine. But
AlphaTauri.
See, I think AlphaTauri is better than
sorry.
Aston.
But they're the best of the rest. There's a clear pace.
They should be.
deficit
Oh,
for
yeah, I
everybody
understand
else.
what you're trying to say. Yeah, okay, got it. But, okay, well, let's talk about AlphaTauri because Pierre Gasly qualified really well. Tyres going on full wets was a mistake for him, I think.
Strategy let him down. They waited way too. They thought there was more rain coming.
That's how they win. It's paid off in the past. Take the gamble.
Yep.
Pit
You said
early or
this
pit
yesterday.
late. Those
Yep.
kind of things. That's always been his MO. So I'm not surprised that they went that risky. And you could hear them on the radio going, "There's more rain coming." Hopefully,
Hopefully.
and it never did. So
He finished in 7th, though, which is a
solid.
performance.
Yeah, the car's got some pace in the dry.
I
And
think
he's-
because it's like that Red Bull. They've taken all of that kind of Red Bull knowledge.
Yeah.
They're sharing a lot more of the same parts now. So,
It's like the Red Bull knowledge, but setting the car up for Pierre because he's the lead driver for this year for this team, right? So he's got
time.
better control of it. Yuki Tsunoda.
Oh mate,
He made up positions.
he's qualifying though. Like
Yeah.
he set himself up to be at the back.
Look, he made a lot of mistakes this weekend.
A lot, but
I don't mind that.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
I don't mind that in a race where it's wet It's his second race in Formula One. He's making moves. He made a lot of good moves, but he also made a lot of mistakes. Carlos Sainz did the same thing. Made a lot of moves, made a lot of mistakes. Unfortunately for Yuki, he made them at the wrong time. And he's pushing hard, but that's what you want to see from a young driver coming in.
Yeah.
I don't think he did anything wrong. He's got no pressure on him for the first half of the year.
You're not wrong. If he got points, I think he'd be stoked. So he's not far off.
The amount of times he ended up to the back of the pack with spinning. He also got a 5-second penalty for turn 9 track limits
Yeah. I
know.
infringements.
Which he got warned and black flagged. So it's a really interesting one to just
But I imagine he only
did.
did it like 5 or 6 times, not 29 times.
Yeah, but...
Come on, Massey, a bit of consistency,
Hello,
mate.
consistency? Yes, I'd like to book you in for the next race, please. Yes, thank you so much. But seriously, like...
Yeah. The standards
As soon as I saw
now.
that, I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
What are the FIA doing? I don't
Hopefully they've
understand
heard
it.
the outcry.
No,
and
they haven't. They don't listen to this.
But from now on, if we're talking about track limits and they continue to keep this level of crazy strictness, like we saw through qualifying and practices and all that kind of stuff, and the race, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
If it continues this way, done. Just don't change it back.
And if you think back to Max Verstappen's first year, similar kind of pushing in.
Yeah.
If interesting directions and getting some penalties and spinning, you know, Max for crashing was his
Yeah, it was
nickname
the
for the
thing.
first couple of years, and now he's absolutely smashing it. So again, I think Tsunoda, there is a lot of skill there, especially when he came out of the pit box on slicks, just Tokyo drifting it all the way to the walls. Like, whoa, my man, I'm gonna get that VTEC.
Jeez.
Ferrari. Why would you not be driving like an old school NSX as well?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a new one still.
The new one looks good, but like Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen, little filming day before the season started, and Sergio in the old school NSX. Oh,
Big fan.
Just get some R34s out there.
oh yes, because Nissan is a manufacturer.
Sorry.
Can you wake up?
You want some R30? Well, look, we'll go back to have an R32 and go to V8 supercars when that was good. Ferrari actually did a thing this weekend.
So
4th
shocked.
and 5th. Charles Leclerc is a bloody good driver. Ow,
Qualifies
that
well.
hurt.
He holds those positions.
That
He
hurt
did
to
really
say.
well. I know.
Carlos was on him. Carlos did well too. I was
Considering how poorly he qualified, he did really well.
11th to 5th.
Yeah.
yeah, he had a
Epic.
mega mega drive really. I mean the red flag helped him out,
Yes.
but he was on pace with Leclerc.
For sure.
And that's him figuring it out.
Yeah.
Figuring out this Ferrari
On the
in
fly.
wets.
Yep.
In intermediates.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm very impressed with Carlos. I think, Campy, your prediction of Carlos being better than Charles at the end of the year, pardon me, or spanking inverted commas is to use your term, would actually probably come
Yeah.
to
I can
fruition.
see it.
Yeah, so can I.
I think Carlos is a professional. In that same interview before the race, he was talking about how he's turning up at the factory and the Ferrari guys are like, we don't know what to do with him because he's just here all the time and they've never had drivers be there so much. His work ethic in those kind of things, he moved to around the corner from McLaren when he changed teams. Most of them still live in Monaco and just turn up on days that it required. He was there all the time. He really takes it seriously and wants to get better.
Well, it's only going to help him because he can build relationships within the garage, and we're not talking about just directional stuff.
No.
If you're there and you're just rocking up and you're like hanging out with the boys and helping them sweep while they're working on the car,
Yep.
I'll sweep the factory.
Yep.
Just put yourself in a position where
Yep.
you're on the same level,
Humbled.
humble level
Yeah.
playing field as those guys. That'll ultimately prove when it comes.
Oh,
Like
for
when
sure.
it comes to on track, they're going to go. Might be an unhealthy bias, but they're going to go. We like Carlos better, so
Yeah.
You know.
Can I just side note this slightly? The Brackley Boys podcast with Beyond the Grid, and I was going to mention this yesterday, was
Brilliant.
flipping amazing. Really good listen.
Yeah.
But one of the things that was consistent, none of them said Lewis Hamilton was their favourite driver to work with. Most of them said Michael Schumacher. And interestingly, from my point of view, is Nico Rosberg learning a lot from Schumacher in that you always invest in your team.
People.
You know everyone's first names. You understand what they do, what
huge.
the kids do, all that sort of stuff. You show up, you're present, and you're not better than them. And whilst Nico's podcast is terrible, I'm sure how he deals with people in the garage was totally different. So I think if you're learning anything like that, and I think Mick will be doing the same thing.
That's skills for life, though, right?
Totally right.
Totally.
If you look at the best CEOs around, they're like, oh, we just go and learn all the cleaners' names because they're the ones there at 10 o'clock at night after everyone's left was still there.
Yep.
Culture within organisations is important.
Huge.
And if Carlos is leading that, we've seen how Leclerc carries on.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think, Seb probably would have done that too. But the thing with Carlos is, look at his dad. His dad's competing in Extreme E, which was, again, an absolutely cool thing to watch. Good old Molly from Australia smashing it there, winning for the Rosberg
She's the
team.
real deal, by the way.
She's incredibly talented.
She won the Australian Rally Championship a couple of years in a row. So
she's great. But the Carlos Sainz Senior thing, he's still in motorsport today. And this is a guy who is incredibly talented and very awarded and highly regarded in the motorsport industry. So, of course, his son's going to do the same thing, but he's also forging his own path, right? So it's, Formula One, not rallying and Ferrari and everything else, but I think he deserves to be there. And the effort that he's putting in behind the scenes is only, as you said, Campy, going to benefit him later on. So Ferrari are lucky that they've got him. I think actually that was a great call by them. So it's good, though, to see Ferrari back towards the front.
Absolutely.
Not at the front, but back towards it. And happily behind McLaren. Danny Rick, look, didn't have a great whole weekend, to be perfectly honest.
He did everything right off the start.
Great start.
Made a position, was right there, just didn't. He was in no man's land, really.
Yeah, and I think what you said yesterday in our podcast about the aggressiveness of the start and, how you lose that time, as soon as someone passed him, the gap just was so significant. At one point he's like, oh, now Carlos was 10 seconds behind and then he ended up 18 seconds in front within a very short period of time. But
even
something else
restart,
going there.
he lost 28 seconds in 30-odd laps.
And again, he's learning, as you say.
I don't want to rag on the dude, but he's learning and he's struggling with it. And the interview after the race, he wasn't making excuses and he didn't bring it up. He let the reporters bring up that stuff. But his attitude was, there's no need to panic at the moment. In 6 or 7 races, I'll be laughing at how I'm feeling at the moment. So he's obviously well aware of his performances.
He'd be feeling it.
Yeah, because that guy's never been that bad or that far off the pace.
No.
I think it's probably it's a combination of not having time in the car, setups and driving style, and just adapting it.
Yeah, and then throw wet conditions in there, throw all these other things in there. Yeah. So I pointed out in the first race review, but I think it's valuable here. He got 6th. I don't think he was ever going to get much better than 6th.
Yep.
So as long as he's achieving those results, he's like, hey, we'll call that a neutral. We'll call that we hit the minimum
where we should be.
We're ticking boxes. We're moving through. I'm learning. And at that stage, as long as he didn't let Stroll through, he was ticking that box there. If he could have got one more place, he would have been absolutely stoked, but he did the team thing as well, which we haven't talked about yet.
Yes.
And we spoke about qualifying yesterday, but in qualifying, he built up to a lap and put a lap down that he never looked like doing all weekend. And he did that in the first race too. So the guy's special.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
And we'll just it's a whole season.
I think it's the same learning curve he had.
3-year contract he's got in McLaren. Yeah. Next year's the year that we're looking for. We didn't think he'd be winning a world championship.
But we saw the same learning curve at Renault. I think it's more apparent because Lando is in that car and doing well, whereas we had Hulk in a worse Renault at the time.
Yeah.
So I think it's just more apparent because Lando is performing. If Lando wasn't doing as well and there was another driver, I think it wouldn't be as obvious. But
yeah. And obviously, as you said, Tommy, he's a team player still. As he said in his post-race interview, he had an opportunity to prove to the team what he was doing in terms of his pace.
Yep.
Over a couple of laps, he wasn't doing it, and so he let Lando by, as he should, because I think...
It's pretty clear.
But I said to you guys last year, the reason why McLaren was so strong is because Carlos and Lando on track worked well as a team, and the ego wasn't involved. It was... Yeah, I am slower, you're right.
Certain days you're going to be faster, certain days you're going to be slower.
And, your biggest rival is your teammate, so that's hard to do. But Danny Rick doesn't have anything to prove compared to Lando. Lando has everything to prove compared to Danny Rick.
But I think he's got credit now with Lando as well, because Lando's going to think, you know what, he's a good guy.
Yep.
He's done the right thing by me and got out of the way pretty quickly. I think he's putting money in the bank for that kind of stuff with the team and with Lando and... It's only going to net positively in the future. It was
Later
he had
on.
nothing to win really by staying where he was.
For sure. And we also see the fact that McLaren is so strong that he can get on a podium.
Yes.
So when he sorts it out, and we know that over a race he's better than Lando. Lando's got amazing one lap, and can I just say, Lando defending from Lewis was freaking great. Lando Norris is miles ahead of where he was when he started.
My whole house was woken up every time he was getting close.
Oh,
the way he'd pull out in that third sector and just try and get Lewis out of DRS range, incredible. And the way he was doing that to Leclerc as well to kind of keep both behind him, just great defensive driving.
Car positioning on track was perfect.
Oh, mate.
Wasn't moving. It was center of the track.
Yep.
No room on the inside.
Just
no
made
room
that
on the
car
outside.
fat.
He did. But it's quick. Like Carlos said, that McLaren with that Mercedes power unit is so fast in a straight line that so they're fast in the straights and they're fast in high speed corners, and Ferraris are faster in the slower speed corners, which Imola is a balanced track in that regard. But just to plant that with a 7-time world champion behind you in a faster car, and as the commentators said, Lando knows that he's not racing Lewis, he's racing Ferrari, but it's like, I would just let him past, or do you let the Ferraris catch up, was I think Brundle's comment. 3 laps later, Lewis is still behind him.
If he had the mediums, do you think he would have got that pass and maintained? Because I think in the last 10 laps, he would have preferred to be on the mediums, but he needed the softs, I think, to get where he was.
Yeah, and I think McLaren would have worked out that risk versus reward in terms of the track was quite cool. It was like 11 degrees out. So in terms of the
softs to switch on quick.
Degradation of the tyre, it wasn't as hard as if it would have been in Bahrain, for example. So yeah, interesting. But like McLaren, stunning.
I reckon team of the day.
Oh, for sure.
Their choices everywhere were just spot on.
Except for Danny Rick's pit stop at that 6 second. I actually didn't see what happened there.
I wonder if there was a bit of traffic because a lot of people were coming at the same time and he got blocked.
Yeah, I don't like it.
I blame Mazepin for that. Mercedes. We spoke a little bit about the crash with Valtteri Bottas, but he wasn't having a good weekend at all before that point.
He was in practice. It was Q3 really when it fell apart for him.
Yeah.
Other than that, all the way through, he was looking one of the fastest. Him, Lando, and Max were quick.
Yeah.
Lewis kind of turned it on at the very end, but from then on, it was downhill for VB. He could not get out of that kind of 10th, 9th, 8th kind of range.
He dropped back to 13th off the start too. So.
Yeah. He even had Toto on the radio going, all right, Valtteri, let's go.
Get on with it, pal.
Which is like, oh, okay. That would have been hard to listen to.
Yeah.
This is the year of the VB, Campy. What happened?
No, it's it. He's done. This is it. This is his last year in Mercedes as well.
He's going to have to go. He's going to have to make a claim on this world championship in the next 4 or 5 races.
He leaves it any later.
He's going to have to win 2 out of the next 4 to put his name in contention.
Yeah.
And he can do it. He's capable of it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
We got double
header coming up.
Tell you what, he didn't look like he was in a fast car, though, the way he was following behind. I don't know what it is.
But we know that Mercedes don't follow well.
Yeah, but it didn't stop Lewis.
Well, let's talk about Lewis, the luckiest guy in the world, puts his, goes off whilst George Russell involved in both, by the way, Mercedes incidents.
That was all Lewis outbreaking himself.
But he to go off and then try and get on a little escape road and then smash his front wing off.
Yeah.
And then the Valtteri crash, lap 32 was the massive time for poor Toto's got his junior driver and his 2 drivers completely buggered in one go. As he said, it wasn't the happiest of times for him. But if it wasn't for that red flag, Lewis would have been nowhere near the podium. He would have remained
he got to
lapped.
unlap himself, right?
Yeah, unlapped himself, was in 9th, managed to get past everyone very, very quickly to finish in 2nd. Okay, we got to take a hats off to Lewis.
Just quickly,
that was a good drive.
That screwed Danny as well because he was the last of the unlapped cars. So everyone got to catch up to him and he had to start on colder tyres, etc.
Yeah.
Just unlucky guy.
Yeah.
But continue.
Do you have anything to say about Lewis Hamilton?
He's a star.
Okay, good. Thanks very much.
That was
Red Bull.
His pace was so fast up the front. Him and Max's pace at the start of that race in the wet was far superior than everybody else.
Yeah, it was amazing
Unbelievable. Unbelievable to watch. And he made seven passes off the restart.
Yeah. What do you think about that going into turn 2, 3? The first chicane first lap.
Yeah, that was all Max. He got the start, didn't he? Max
got the start, but I don't think that Lewis has got a claim there. He was pretty pissed off.
Oh, he can be pissed off, but Lewis has done that to people thousands of times.
But I think that's only just a default thing that you do as a driver in case there's a penalty there later.
Yeah, it's a good call.
Yeah.
Like, I think you just get on the thing and say, this guy pushed me. What's like, yes, we all saw that. But I think there's something with the FIA that if you don't actually make
if you don't say
at the time, they can't then look back retrospectively.
To get to basketball analogies, which I'm good at.
Oh, here we go.
It's like when you go up, and even if you don't get fouled, you say, and one, because you want the foul. You want the ref to hear it. Same thing. It's just calling out for it just in case.
Is that how you shut down New York City to have a race?
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting. Christian Horner said after the race that Mercedes is way better on tyre degradation. If you look at the final 5 laps of the stint on the inters and on the mediums, Lewis's pace was so much quicker than Max Verstappen.
I think Lewis was managing it by going into the wet parts of the track as well. Max couldn't give a crap. He was just running around the dry.
Even in the dry, he was saying Lewis's lap times were far better than what ours were, and he'd passed a whole lot of people. Max was cruising. So he will be, I think we could see Red Bull get out to some big leads and Mercedes charge home just on tyre degradation.
Well, it'll be good
exciting
to see. Red Bull, Max Verstappen finishing in first. Mega drive from him.
Yep.
First time he's ever won in Italy, which is nice too. Fell for Sergio Perez, 11th.
How many? Oh, so many mistakes.
So many mistakes. He got a terrible start.
Horrible.
He had Max's start, like off the original start.
About as good as you get.
Mega. Started in second gear, basically no wheel spin, and was just like
Mate.
all the way through past Lewis, and Sergio was struggling for grip as well.
Edge of the grass, he was on.
Yeah.
On a wet track, that is ballsy.
This just shows his caliber of skill.
Ballsy.
Yep. Checo's good. I don't mind him making mistakes. It's the wet. People make mistakes all the time. I don't mind it in his second race there. He showed he's got pace.
In the dry and qualifying, it showed that he had it together. The fact that he put it on second.
Yep.
Yep.
In the wet, it's kind of just jeopardy. It's like roll the dice.
So many spins.
You spin or you don't.
It would have been a different race for him if he got the start that he wanted.
Yes.
For sure.
There's no way that Max or Lewis would have passed him under race conditions in those conditions.
Yeah.
We didn't get to see our 2 Red Bulls at the front strategy though.
No.
We kind of lost that ability, but it'll come.
Yeah, but mind you, that wouldn't have made a big difference with Lewis at the back anyway, if that had happened.
Totally.
Anyway, well, that's the race, boys. A really interesting one, worth staying up for as well. If you haven't watched it yet, you'll enjoy the highlights, I'm sure. Let's talk about the Fantasy League. Tommy T as our lead fantasy name picker.
Would you like to... of us at fantasy?
Yes, but you're the best at picking the names. Let's go through some of your favourite names.
We've got the Nikita Wallbanger and Vodka Armco Barrier, which sounds like a cocktail, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's...
Good, Dave.
Dave?
Yep.
If you keep swearing, I'll tell Mum. James M. That one took me a sec. I was like, what?
It's clever.
Hasn't got past turn 3. Good.
That's so great. Yeah.
If Danny Rick's going to lick me, then I'll be a stand. Gemma C. Outstanding.
Gemma, that is quality.
And then Living in Traffic Paradise by TA. If that was a little Yuki qualifying, I think.
Oh, that's so good. If you want to be part of our fantasy league, jump on. In our show notes in the description below or on YouTube, wherever you're watching this, there are links to be able to find that. It doesn't matter if you haven't joined yet because there are still prizes to be won.
And you'll probably beat me still.
It's still, because if he remembers his login, I'm sure he'll forget
Where
it
are
at some
you
point.
sitting, Tommy?
Oh, 60-something?
Yeah, I haven't even looked where I was sitting because I know you're ahead of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Topping the boys once again.
Once again, sucked last year. I won last year, and you just say, it's COVID, so it's nothing to do with it. But anyway, it's great to do this. Thank you so much, boys, for your time here this morning. Thank you for watching. Do all of the things that good people on YouTube and podcasts do. You know that we appreciate that. But we will catch you next time with some more interviews, which is going to be exciting. Boys, thanks for your time. See you soon. I don't understand how you're going to live with somebody else in the same house.
Oh, does she want to kill you?
Because you sound like a freight train all the time. At least freight trains turn off at one point.
They disappear into the distance.
You have distance on a freight train. Kathy just keeps following you around.
I like a freight train when it's in another suburb.